We are here today doing a podcast. James Klinge has came in to see us and chat. Thank you, James, for coming in. James, after graduating from art college with a degree in illustration and print, Glasgow-born James realised that his career would be much more preferred to an artist rather than an illustrator. And in hindsight, he always knew that was the case. So we are here with James today. Thanks for coming in, James.
Pleasure. We're
going to talk to James about his artwork. Some of the artwork you'll be able to see here, so you know he's an artist, but we're going to talk about James's journey, basically, and how he got to where he got to. I met James a month or two ago. We became quite friends chatting, similar backgrounds and stuff with art, so I just really want to be interested to find out more about your art, James, really, and your practice. I do a little bit of spray paint, but nowhere near your level, and it just blows my mind. So what we'll do is, first off, James, is just talk about your background, formal and non-formal kind of training. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. And first of all, for me, art has always been what I've been into as a kid.
Yeah.
I used to just be in my room constantly, just drawing and copying Spider-Man comics, copying whatever I could, and just drawing. And at school, I just couldn't wait to get into the art department, and I had some really, really good teachers who just proper nourished my want to focus on my art.
Mm-hmm.
And in my 6th year, I did nothing but art. I was in the art department all day, every day, just working on my portfolio to then go towards art college. At school, I was introduced to artists like Peter Howson, and then in my final year, I was introduced to Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt, and it was like totally. When I saw the work of Schiele, I was just so. My eyes were open to how a portrait could look. The work of Peter Howson is something I've always loved and continue to do so. So worked on my portfolio, and then headed up to Duncan and Johnston, where I thought I was applying for fine art, but it was a foundation year.
Right, okay.
And then was recommended maybe to try illustration and printmaking.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't graphic design, so you're not in front of a computer, but you could ultimately get some jobs out of it.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, okay, that sounds like fun. I'll give it a go. But even in that, I found that my work was still very leaning towards the fine art.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my final year where I was really struggling for the first 2 years of illustration to find my style.
Yeah.
And then I came across a book called Stencil Graffiti in my final year. So this is 2005.
Yeah.
And I saw what could be done with a stencil as a portrait. And from then on, I just self-taught my way how to create a stencil. My tutors didn't know what to do or how to guide me with this.
Yeah.
So completely self-taught, and that obsession of just sitting down and cutting a stencil to create a painting began.
Yeah, because it wasn't really that accessible at the beginning, eh? We were talking earlier, there wasn't really any videos on YouTube and all of this kind of stuff. So just tell us a bit about how you got into stenciling and, that kind of street culture side of it, I suppose. Is that how you got into it?
Growing up and living outside of Glasgow and getting the train into Glasgow, I'd be seeing all the graffiti. As the closer you got into Central Station, I'd see
the last couple of minutes.
I would see you get from the south side onwards. I would see the graph on the walls, and I would just be like, what is this? This is awesome. And especially the danger of how high and how far these people go to write their name.
And how can they get it at that
Exactly.
Place? Yeah.
So, and then having an older sister who was introducing me into rap music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just learning from there, learning the whole hip-hop culture.
Yeah.
So I've always been into that side of art, and as well as looking at the masters, Rembrandts, the Sheilas, Van Goghs, Picasso, trying to keep my finger on the pulse of graffiti as well, and just see what's going on. And then towards 2000s, that's when the internet was starting to allow street art to become noticed as well, and finding interest in that. But not just street art and graffiti. I was interested to see, having seen that book, Stencil Graffiti, what could be done with a spray can to create a portrait.
Right, okay.
And
So that's feeding back into the fine art.
feeding back into the fine art.
Yeah. But it's a really interesting mix, actually, isn't it?
It's a really interesting mix.
Yeah.
You might, the fine art, spray paint, and you might think, no, they don't go. But I just was obsessed, and there was no stopping me. So when I finished at art college, I moved back home with my folks, and they had a wee shed in the garden, and that was my first studio.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing, isn't it? And I suppose it is like just getting a place to work and develop is important, and even like it is a shed, you know, in your garden, isn't it?
Yeah, it was tiny. It was a shed in the garden.
How did your dad feel about that? I bet you took over the shed completely, almost.
Well, yeah, he said, "Look, you just have it. Yeah, I don't want any of the fumes of the spray paint in my house." So
it probably stopped him being able to do the garden and all that. So not a bad thing, but
no, it was fun. Yeah, he was
not to cut the grass as well.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, tell us about. So Glasgow is such a vibrant art city. It would be really interesting to see about you being in Glasgow. You talk about coming to Glasgow and how Glasgow affected you, and some insight into.
Well, I was always like, even to this day, and now taking my own kids to the Kelvin Grove Museum, and then just walking around, and you've got the Dali there, you've got Rembrandts, you've got Picasso's, and all the other works there, and it's just there, and some of the surrounding galleries in the city centre, and
it's all free in Glasgow, isn't it?
And it's all free, but just like even the kind of like independent galleries where you could like buy work and stuff like that, going in there and just seeing what's happening. And then there was a gallery that opened about in the early to mid 2000s, Rico, and they would have exhibitions that had graph writers and quote unquote street artists showing their work. And
where was that based in?
That was just off. It was just by Kelvin Bridge, Kelvin Bridge, right from here.
Oh yeah.
So there was that place to like go on a Friday night and see shows on a monthly basis, and it was cool. And then obviously see just like. Later on, you've got the Yardworks Festival that has just happened earlier this month, and it's just growing and growing and growing.
I mean, Yardworks, you're based at SWG3. I keep saying it wrong. How did 3G go? It's like, but I mean, that's international now, isn't it? People come from all around the world.
It brings international artists, and it's one of those events that I think the people of Glasgow are excited by. Come rain or shine, they're there to see. This variety of artists, whether they be doing graffiti or doing a mural, it's exciting, and people are really embracing it.
Okay, so that feeds into like developing your style. What I was really drawn to with your stuff is like you're talking about Francis Bacon and different influences. Rembrandt, for instance, I always look at Rembrandt lighting for camera work. Learned at uni straight off the bat is your kind of classical style. What mixes with the street art.
So to begin with, my style was very simplistic. I would take a work from photograph initially, and then what I would take a photograph of would be very much how the painting would end. And I would just do street scenes. So I've got a piece here from
you're showing us the one
2007.
Where plumb down the table, behind you, side you, and talking about,
or excuse the reflection of the glass. But so I would walk around. This is of a street in Rome, and I would walk around with my Cybershot camera taking a photo. And
the detail's phenomenal.
This was all with a scalpel blade of a hand cut stencil. And there's 4 layers of stencils to this. So it's kind of like screen printing. It's like a poor man's screen printing, where you're just building up the layers and stuff like that. And applying spray paint. So I did this, and this was pretty much all my work was. I wasn't really doing any figurative work. And I got my first.
So you like to challenge yourself. I mean, I'm like all them scooters there, and I'm having anxiety of making a stencil.
It's just switch off and just becoming a total zone of meditation, and just cracking on and looking at the stencils. And so I was doing that, and then I did a series around Glasgow. So before like the Paddy's Market area got closed down, I was there with my little cyber shot taking photos of the market stalls and stuff like that.
It's a great part of that.
And now that it no longer exists, my paintings do.
Yeah.
So, but then...
Yeah, your paintings do. So when you go round Paddy's Market on that wall with the girl with the hair, with the white and the... That's yours?
That's mine. But that's a lot later. But
I meant to ask you about that because I did see it and I thought...
Well, we'll get on to that. Yeah. So, but the work was very much like on canvas, and I hadn't done any murals by then.
Okay.
So it was all very like urban landscapes. I used to call them urban landscape series.
Yeah.
And then... But it was very much like there was no, apart from the marks of the stencil, there was no expression, there was no freehand elements. So people would come to an exhibition and just see what they thought was a photograph. I'm like, no, it's a hand-cut stencil, multi-layered. These are paintings.
There's more life to it.
Yeah, and then I was like, right, no, I'm a figurative artist. I need to get back into it. So I got back into the figurative thing and just tried to push myself to develop a more of a freehand expression element to my work. Yeah. Because with the urban landscape pieces, it was very much once the last stencil was done, that was I knew where the end of the painting would be. Yeah. But now it is actually the hardest part is knowing when to stop because there's so much more of a freehand element. Yeah. So just over the years, it's just constantly evolved. And I would say 2016 was a really important year for me because I stopped using the name Klingetron.
Yeah, you were saying that. Yeah.
I started using the name Klingetron. It's a name that my skating friends used to call me when we were out skating. Yeah, I would like try tricks.
It's very hip-hop, kind of that back in the day.
Yeah, I guess, your favourite MCs and rappers had their name, their moniker or whatever, but it was also for me, the internet, I really like the idea of how you could Google James Klinge and find nothing, right? Or you could Google Klingetron and find pages and pages of stuff. Yeah. But then, as I said, 2016 was really important for me and quite life-changing as well. Yeah. And I decided to retire the name Klingetron and start using my real name. And then the work started to change really rapidly. So I was starting off the year doing self-portraits and just looking at myself and really from that, just this, I started moving the spray paint around with a palette knife. Yeah. So this is a study. This is just pure experimentation. And at the start of 2016, I just did a whole load of self-portraits. I had a lot going on.
What do you mean a lot going on? A lot going on in your art and your personal life? Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So,
so was that like you literally changed your name back to your name, your style's moving towards...
And I finally moved the style of working that I really feel with that. Yeah. I was excited by it again.
Yeah, what you identify with.
Yeah, so it was like when I first started the intense detailed stencils, I was so excited and obsessed. And then learning and experimenting with moving the paint around with a palette knife, that came back.
Yeah, was it a confidence thing then? Because I found different stages of my career, it's a confidence that makes you do that thing what you really love.
I was becoming more and more happy with the final piece.
Yeah.
And just like that excitement of that. Yeah, it was becoming... I mean, if I show you this again...
because it does...
There's a lot of texture.
Yeah.
And in these pieces here, there's a lot of texture.
Yeah.
And I've had people come to shows and be like, these oil paintings are amazing.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
I'm like,
no.
These are spray paint. Because I'm moving the paint around and the technique I've developed. Yeah. And I don't think anyone else is doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There may be people now.
Yeah. But
I don't know of them. Yeah. And I'm just so obsessed. I'm in my own bubble. But the texture and what I'm creating with spray paint is is unique, and it has become more.
Did it feel like a penny drop moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, but it's like everybody talks about, like it takes you years, but then suddenly just something clicks.
Something clicks.
Yeah,
Something clicks.
just cuts into place.
I'd be in the studio and just open to the experimentation side and things.
Yeah.
And making the mistakes.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just been seeing how far I can push the abstraction.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
From going from the intensely detailed stencils and these paintings. The
Can
foundation.
you tell us about this one then as well, and the development of that then as well?
This is still from a stencil.
Yeah.
From a hang. This is like a 9-layer stencil starting off. So I'm cutting out.
Yeah.
But then I'm moving this paint around with a palette knife.
Yeah.
And I'll do the background wash, and then I'll do the figure.
Yeah.
And there's like a kind of explosion, like it's chaos. I call it controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Where you can hardly recognize elements of the figure.
Yeah.
But then I will go back and almost like bring the background back to focus the silhouette of the figure again.
Yeah. So
And I'm almost like letting the paint do what it wants to do. So you have got the drips going over the figure. You have got like the drips going down the night, but you can still make out the image.
Yeah.
It's letting the viewer use their eyes and mind to create what almost like what they can't see and stuff like that.
Yeah, what I love about stuff as well, of your stuff, and feeding into that, I suppose, is it's almost like mixed media, but it comes out like a painting. But it's the way you build the layers up to get the level of 3D, separations from the background and the light and shadow, like the Rembrandt. I mean, I can see the light and dark and the shadow and the separation.
And he was intense with his shadows and stuff, and I just loved that. Loved the Rembrandt stuff. And when you look at closer at Rembrandt, you've got the thick and it's just so I guess there's that influence too, and there's the in some of the works you've got the striking marks. If you on my Instagram, I'll post some videos of me working, and you will see me like I am attacking the canvas with a palette knife, really striking the canvas. Yeah. And you can see that, and
you can feel
you should be able to do that with a stencil. But there is a lot of energy, and it's almost like a workout in the studio where I am working on a piece, especially with the larger pieces and stuff.
And some stencils work, what people have done before, doesn't feel as dynamic. There's not as much. I mean, literally, as your eyes move about a lot, there's a lot of motion. It does feel like it's kind of moving to a certain extent. Yeah.
What I love with people that work with stencils, I don't work as they work, and they don't work as I work. Every stencil artist I've spoken to, not just stencil, every artist that uses a stencil, does it in their own way. And it's like, it's just, I find that so interesting.
But yours is, what I see about you, I mean, obviously, I'm not an artist doing stencil. I do it as like a hobby in a garage as well, to like experiment with different kind of art forms, coming from art school originally, but mostly I do like film now, but I kind of hide my art away. But the level of detail and craftsmanship in your stuff and your stencil stuff now is so high. It's almost like I wouldn't look at yourself. I wouldn't say like he's a stencil. Why would I say you're a stencil artist?
But I just call myself an artist. I do murals as well.
That's that now, isn't it?
I'm not a muralist. I'm not a street artist. I'm an artist, and I can work large scale as well. So I mean, I didn't do my first mural until 2013.
Right. Okay. Tell us about some of your murals. Tell me about some of the ones in Glasgow, because I just kept forgetting, but I seen that one in near the Brigade and
the Tiger.
No, the girl on the wall.
Oh, right. Okay. That's based on,
and for a long time,
and that's based on a series. I seem to keep coming back to the Women in Black series. There's one here. And I had a show at the Art Pistol Gallery, where the entire in 2017, and it was all the works were studies of women in black. And then they provided me a wall, and I created one of the paintings as a mural, and then as a print. But the first mural was the panda on Mitchell Lane, just across from the lighthouse.
Yeah,
that was 2013.
Yeah.
And then my last mural was down at the arches at SWG3 along the expressway, and it was based upon the one behind you, which is...
Yeah, I love that. I love them.
So it was inspired. So I've kind of like this year, having turned 40, I'm kind of like now looking backwards to go forwards. Yeah, so I'm looking back at my original inspirations. Yeah. So looking back at Egon Schiele and how he poses the figures in his work. Yeah. And there's this one piece by Schiele, male nude with a red loincloth. Yeah. And I just always, the first time I saw that drawing, I was in love with it. Yeah, yeah. So I've kind of like put myself...
Yeah, it's actually going way back.
Going way back to like my 6th year,
then bringing it right forward again.
And to see where I can go with posing the figure in those uncomfortable poses that he did, and almost like voicing the discomfort of maybe I guess like the discomfort and struggles of being an artist. Yeah, yeah. And battling, it's a battle with yourself, trying to like be in the studio and you're creating the work. Are you happy with the work? Yeah. So I'm really happy with these works. I absolutely love them, and so yeah, that was the last mural was down in the art.
That's cool to hear. It looks like you're in a really good space. You're doing some great work, and you're really happy with the level of where it's at.
Yeah, and
it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Constantly thinking about the next thing, so I'm now thinking about the next series of work and stuff.
Right, that's cool. Well, that brings me nicely on to talk about, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about this in art, but I talk about it in my all the time with younger people, so how you have to, you know, we've both got families, we've been artists all the way through having our families, we've taken the risks of having our own business while having young families, so you have to have some kind of eye while you develop your style on being commercial. So tell us about some of the people you've worked with over the years, some of the brands, and you know what you've liked about that, and how you don't have to be totally about like how I'm commercial, but how that kind of develops.
Yeah, well, what I will start off by saying is I wish that in art school I'd learned about they would teach you the business side of things.
Need business and everything.
Is that necessary evil? Yep. I was not taught at art college how to invoice it. I was not told how to like pitch.
Like they're not going to do it, but like it'd be great to do a bit on it. Yeah,
go and be free. Go find out for yourself. So I mean,
I love that.
It wasn't until 2014 when I packed in the 9 to 5 to go full time in art.
Yeah.
And but that 9 to 5 allowed me to see how to present an invoice. Yep. And almost like be more professional. Yeah. So. And just put myself out there, I was able to, in 2012, Red Bull were doing a project at SWG3 when they were painting their mini fridges for bars around Glasgow.
Yeah.
And I went along and I, brass neck, just went in and said, who's the organiser? I want to have a word with them because I'd love to get involved in this if I can. So I got chatting to the representative from Red Bull, and we seemed to get on really well. And the next thing I knew, I was curating an exhibition down at their Red Bull studios in London.
Oh, that's cool.
Bringing UK artists together. Yeah. That then started a relationship with Red Bull for some work. I've worked with Jägermeister. I've done some work with Jägermeister in the past. I've done some work. I did a small job with Sony. But that's a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. It's just to take you kind of like out that comfort zone and do something. Just do some fun stuff, some fun projects.
And there's a deadline, and there's a cost, and there's a delivery. You know, how free were they with you and stuff for your project?
They were free enough. It was because they're approaching you for your style of work.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice thing. For like, we want to work with you because
we like your work.
Yeah, it's not because of but can you do this? Can you work like this? Because I'll just no. I'm not that guy. If you want that artist, here's who you should go to.
Or that kind of agency. That's kind of an agency campaign doing things. So when they come to you, they come to you for your style, and you've got to be strong with that.
Yeah. So I've been very fortunate to work with brands like that, where they've allowed me the freedom to do what I want to do for them, for their brand, so that was fun. But it's and that continues. And
other ways of commercializing yourself then. I mean, I suppose we were talking earlier, where of that era with social media and the internet coming in more, isn't it? So you've got to be aware of, like, you know, I suppose everybody knows really now, is it's like have a website, have a shop, just be accessible, eh?
Yeah, for me, when you say commercialization, for me, it's like getting my work into a gallery and having. A goal for me is to have my work in museums. Right. Like I was in Kelvin Grove with my son. And we're walking around and I'm showing the paintings, and he was like, "Okay, cool. Where's yours, Dad?" And I was like, "Good call. Yeah,
it's just around here."
So that the kind of like having my work in that kind of institution. Where
it's a really good idea.
Where like the next generation and further generations I'm in a permanent collection. That for me is something I aspire to.
Yeah, Kelvin Grove. Yeah. There you go. This next.
But and also to be for my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids. Wouldn't it be great for them to be an artist? Big thing. We're going to learn about this artist today.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unrelated. That's my stuff like that. You know, so that
that'd be cool.
That for me is an ambition.
Yeah, there's loads of, I suppose, in the art world, legacy is, I mean, because your work is a visual medium.
My work's going to outlive me.
Yeah, but that's it. That's nice and scary. And scary at the same time. I think about that as well. Sometimes there's pieces out there and people will see them later. I suppose the modern world's getting more like that. It's that kind of Warhol thing, 50 minutes of fame with everybody. But when it's something you produce as an artist, it can't be played down enough that that's actually your career.
Yeah.
You know? That's a good thing for artists to learn, isn't it? It's a career.
It's a vocation.
It's a vocation. Yeah.
It's
a little bit more painful.
You've really got to want to go for it and just really throw yourself.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Yeah. Because then it comes to, especially with the street art stuff, where people think they can take a photo and then they can use your work as a commercial entity. It's like, no, you got it. I own the copyright.
Really interesting in it.
It's that whole side of business where owning the copyright of the work, and you've got to learn about all this kind of licensing.
Just learning about licensing,
knowing your rights as an artist.
Yeah, and stuff keeps changing.
And knowing your worth.
I think that's probably the best thing. Knowing your worth. It's like
it's tough.
It is tough. I was just thinking, like, what was going to say there, but it's like actually how you cost your work and then cost your time. But it's the bigger thing as well. It's like, you know, it's the creation, it's the idea, it's the concept, you know. And then it's like, you know, whatever people get out of it, you know, who loves your work. That's really interesting. I think all artists have got to try and be commercial and sustain yourself, so you can really, I think the commitment thing then, so to be commercial helps you commit because you spend more time doing it.
Being in terms of like working with a corporate brand or whatever, that can help push you out your comfort zone and maybe direct your work in another direction. You might have learned something from that job or whatever. But for me, I guess there's almost a stubbornness of I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, so on that, let's have a look at the skateboard then, because I come from a bit of a skateboarding, BMX kind of background. So I love the crossover again, that you can put your artwork on. I mean, let's not skateboard, but still a commercial piece, I suppose.
But it's a cool canvas.
It's just a cool canvas.
And you've got a pro skateboarder will get their pro deck. And the artwork's always really interesting on the deck. So it's just a cool.
It's amazing. Actually.
It's cool.
So it makes it, and what I love about this cultural thing is everything becomes accessible.
Yeah, it's just another
medium.
Yeah,
just another medium. I mean, it's that or a tower block or, you know, or an Instagram 9:16, what we all have to do today. You fit your piece of art into a space. And that's interesting, actually. See on that, with the world changing, do you think, I'm thinking about it on formats all the time, different sizes and ratios, does that ever come into your mind when you're creating pieces these days?
No, I'm just, for me,
it's good.
I like working on a big canvas, but I like the kind of focusing in on a little canvas as well.
Yeah.
You've got a small canvas there, you've got a large canvas there.
Yeah.
To me, they're both in the same thing.
Yeah. I think go large, for me all the time with artworks, it's like go large until you have to put it in your house somewhere and you're like, oh, but I think large is really cool, but not underestimate. I've got a small Pullman piece by James Klinge, and it's a little small thing about a white witch, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, but generally I was bigger than better.
Bigger the better.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. All right, James, that's amazing. So what we're going to now is, I think if you've got any, it's quite nice talk for young people and people listening and stuff like that to learn some stuff. What advice would you give? It's kind of general. What advice would you give to any young artist looking at your work or any kind of work? What advice would you give them?
So, just go to exhibition openings, go to galleries, go to museums, and just soak it all in.
Yeah.
Just fully soak it all in. Find your inspirations, and the beauty of social media now is you can connect with them.
Yeah.
Could you imagine direct messaging one of
Bangkok
Castle or something like that, or whatever, and just being like, oh,
could you imagine that?
Incredible. But you can do that now, and some of this opportunities I've had is because I've put myself out there and I've reached out as well. So
you've got to be open and brave.
Don't ask, don't get.
It's amazing about people come back to you.
It is amazing, and they might say no now, but you might then stay on their radar. A lot of the stuff that's happened in my career has happened years down the line after that first initial foot in the door moment. So just don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. And just if working on canvas is what you want to do, or working in the studio, just enjoy it. Just enjoy what you're doing. And just...
The enjoyment is one of the big things, isn't it? Yes, you've got to, it's good getting totally focused stuff, but enjoyment is what gives you the total focus and gives you the hours that you have to put in, 'cause it's all about the hours.
But I heard an interesting thing with one of my favourite artists. She's so amazing, and she's just got such an awesome attitude. Is Maggie Hamblin.
Right,
and she was taught that, you have to come into the studio whether you're depressed, happy, sad, randy. You've got to come in and use that. You've got to use what's going on with you to articulate yourself onto the canvas. Like I said, 2016 was a really important year for that, for me, with what was going on personally, and that's when the work changed, and I still put myself onto the canvas. That's how I articulate myself. I might not be the most articulate person, but I speak when I'm on the canvas, and that
your work.
So every action with that palette knife is me speaking and interacting with the work and what I want to get out there. My frustrations, my joys, it's all getting poured onto the canvas.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably what true art is your emotion. I love that with saying that. So it's being disciplined to get in and do work, but get your emotion, use your emotion as the channel.
But sometimes a day in the studio, you'll do some work, you might start painting, and you just might be like, no, today wasn't a good day, so you might just go into online, watch a few artist interviews, which I do. I love a good documentary, and I love an artist interview. Or I might just sit there with a coffee looking at some books, and then if I need to clear the head, I'll go take the dog for a walk.
You're telling me about the Francis Bacon documentary.
A Brush with Violence.
But that's good.
It is incredible.
We've watched that as well, and it's great. It's just good getting these influences and hearing people's stories and struggles and, you know, where they want to be as well.
The first time I saw a Francis Bacon piece, I was completely mesmerised, and it was in the 1989 Batman film with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And you know that scene where the Joker comes in and they're in the museum and they're destroying all the work, and then his side guy goes to slash this painting, and the Joker goes, "Bob, I kind of like this one. Leave it."
Yeah.
And that was the first time I saw Bacon work, and I was like, "Wow, you can create that with paint.
Yeah,
that's amazing." It was like, I am attracted to dark paintings.
Okay,
I've got a collection of work prints and stuff where my wife will be like, "It's a bit too dark for that. That's not coming into the house." So,
well, that's good, but that's just emotions and stuff people don't do. Bacon stuff was phenomenal, and so is your work is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Or maybe I'll be going. Actually, I'm not looking forward to it, but seeing it at the museum in Glasgow would be amazing. So, James, what we like to do as well is for people listening in is always give them, I quite like when I listen to podcasts, is having something to do after it and stuff like that. So what we ask you today is there any kind of book you would recommend or things that you like that way? It can be a book, it can be like a documentary or anything what you would like to people can go and look at and listen.
So, documentary-wise, I am a real big fan of the documentaries by the art historian Simon Shammer.
Right, yeah.
He did a series of which is available to purchase on iTunes. It was on the BBC, and it's called Faces of Britain.
Right, yeah.
And it talks about the different types of portraits.
Yeah.
Portraits of power, portraits of the people, portraits of love, which inspired this series of work.
Right, cool.
And it's a 5-part documentary, and it's just incredible. It was very inspirational and really interesting as well. I highly recommend checking that out. And any other, he did a documentary about Rembrandt's later career as well. It's fascinating. Yeah. It's all online. But then I've got a bookshelf in the studio, and other than collecting prints and stuff, I love collecting books.
Yeah.
So I've got a big book collection, and I remember finishing uni, and one of the books I was really, really excited about. Again, it was before Instagram. It was before the boom of like sharing your work online and stuff like that. I think Flickr was the only thing that artists were using at the time. Was a book by Tristan Yanko called Street Sketchbook.
Right, amazing. Yeah, that's cool.
And it's a thick book. It's a big book, and it's got a fantastic selection of artists, and it's a look into. It's got everyone from Rich T to Elf.
Yeah.
Banksy's in here as well. Mr. Jago.
Yeah.
And it's just that look of what artists are doing in their sketchbooks before they...
Yeah, it's a peek behind the curtain.
It's a peek, it's a behind-the-scenes look into that very intimate and maybe private part of an artist's process, their sketchbook. So it was a book I was like really excited by, and it was £3 off at Borders when the book was already £20.
It's going to be there
when
for that.
Just out of uni. It was good. So that is a book. It's a fun book to have. It's one. It's like that big Banksy book. This is what everyone's got that Banksy book in their collection, and this is another one. Yeah, I think everyone should have in their collection as well.
Amazing.
It's a really, really good book.
Yeah, it's great to have a book, especially in visual books where you can scan through, get ideas. I think when you talk about the stuff for inspiration, that's what I do. I flick through a couple of books, even like not thinking. I just like look, and just kind of help your mind relax and be creative. James, amazing. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for sharing all your stuff and telling us. We will have you on again soon. We could talk to you for double the amount of time, actually. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.